Good morning. I was saying earlier, an hour was stolen from us in the night. You are the survivors. You foiled the thieves. So, welcome to the Unitarian Church of Evanston. My name is Annette Wallace. My pronouns are she, her. And whether this is your spiritual home or you are newly discovering this community, we're grateful to share this time together. We strive to be an inclusive and welcoming community, seeking truth in love and nurturing the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us is worthy of love, and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. We come together to remember our kinship with one another and to hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention, and to dedicate ourselves more fully to living our shared values. People of all ages are a welcome and important part of our faith community, and they're fun. We are blessed to have the children in the sanctuary for the first half of every service, and the entire service is for all ages about once a month. The nest, it's well populated. The nest in the front is our designated area for families with young children, where we have quiet fidget toys and activities and a kid-friendly order of service. Nursery care is available in room 11 every Sunday. As part of being a welcoming and inclusive community, we have some information posted on the screen that will help orient you to UCE and our service. Here are a few announcements. UCE is going camping. You campers. Mark your calendars for the weekend of June 6th through 8th at Illinois State Beach Campground, a little over an hour away. Several families are already signed up. Check the newsletter for details and to reserve your spot. Or talk with Kevin Barrow, Kylie Corey, or Gray Wiviat for more info. Many of us feel overwhelmed and worn out by the current political onslaught. We ask ourselves, but what can I do? UCE's new Catalyst team is here to help. Catalyst can connect you to 2 tracks of involvement. Want to demonstrate resistance to emerging federal policies? We provide ways to protest, demonstrate, and raise your voice. Want to influence state legislation that has a direct impact on Illinois immigrants, our environment, or criminal justice? We connect you to your state representative or senator to advocate in writing and in person, federal level or state level, or choose both. Choose both. Yes. Each track provides specific, well-defined short-term activities so we all can do something, have impact, and feel positive. Curious? Energized? See the Catalyst team at their table at the back of the sanctuary during Kinship Hour to learn more. The Integrated Stewardship Council will host 2 budget town halls today after the service, and again on Wednesday, March 12th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. We all are invited to bring their questions. Also today at 2 o'clock, there are a lot of announcements here. Also today at 2 o'clock, we will host a Know Your Rights event, here specifically for faith communities wanting to learn how to provide safety amidst a regime that has removed sanctuary protections. This is sanctuary. And now, let us settle into our shared time of reflection, celebration, and inspiration. As we begin our worship service, those joining us online are invited to gather your chalice as we join in beloved community. Welcome to worship. That was wonderful. The Unitarian Church of Evanston resides in the traditional homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. This land was transferred from the local Potawatomi community to the U.S. government in 1829, sold to white settlers, and the Potawatomi community were forcefully removed west of the Mississippi. We also remember the ancestors of contemporary African Americans, the individuals, families, and networks of Black people who built up our country's culture and economy, which was a role forced on them originally by enslavement. We are indebted to their labor and unwilling sacrifice, and acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations, still felt and witnessed today. These acknowledgments are one small effort toward building a long-term solidarity with contemporary communities. We commit ourselves to incorporate these acknowledgments into our lives and turn our thoughts into actions. Please join in our words of shared commitment. We name these realities with honor for all the ancestors, respect for our descendants, and gratitude for the land we use as sacred space. Dr. Emma Farrell brought the flowers, and they're not smelly flowers, they're really lovely flowers, in loving memory of her brother Oliver. And as they light the chalice, symbol of our living tradition, please join in reading responsively the words on the screen by Reverend Julianne Lepp. We light this chalice with hope, a sturdy flame we nurture in these difficult times. We light this chalice with the heart of compassion for a nation divided by politics and strife. We light this chalice knowing that it will take all of us to repair this world we live in. May we find rest, compassion, and the hope that we need to nurture ourselves with each other. May this sturdy light remind us of the people we can be and the difference we can make in the world together. Yes. Please rise in body and spirit, and join in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now, before we sing our opening hymn, I invite those of us online to greet each other in the chat, and those of us in the auditorium gathered in the sanctuary, turn to somebody you don't know and say hello.
Please stay after the service to continue your conversations. And if you're new to UCE, please stop by the welcome table at the back with the red tablecloth. There you can get more information about our community and get any questions that you have answered. And let's keep building kinship, thank you, Tony, among us. And rise if you haven't already, and sing together a song of joy in kinship, number 360, Here We Have Gathered. All three verses. Everyone. I'm Reverend Eileen Wiviat. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the senior minister here. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm going to share a bit of a story. But before I do, I wanted to, this is a little bit ad lib. My friend Ann McAllister showed me this picture this morning. Ann's in the choir. You're going to have to, I don't have this copied for the screen, so you're going to have to come and see this later. But if anybody up here wants to come and take a look, this is a picture of Ann's grandmother. She's right here, Catherine. And if you can tell, how are they dressed? Would you say they're dressed like you would expect them to be dressed? Can you tell, Iris? Can you see? Lucas, tell me what you think about. They're dressed formally. Okay, good. This is like probably 1918 or 1917. How would you think? What do you think what are the gender of these people? Oh, okay. These are all women, female identified folks, but they are dressed like you might expect a man to dress in 1918. And why they were doing that was because they didn't have the right to vote because they were women. And so they said, we're going to dress like men. Maybe they'll give us the vote if we dress like men. Which I think is like an amazingly courageous, brave, awesome thing that they did. Anyway, I just think it's such a cool picture. So come and look at it later and ask Ann about it. Tell you the story of a friend of mine, somebody that I knew. And first of all, Ramadan Mubarak to our Muslim neighbors. Ramadan is a time of fasting and prayer for Muslims in our community that are celebrating this right now. And I wanted to share with you a story of a friend of mine who was Muslim. And I was so amazed to find that her story was in this book that Kathy, keep walking away from the microphone. Sorry about that. Should have a headset on. Kathy showed me this book. It's called Holy Troublemakers and Unconventional Saints. And I was blown away when I was flipping through this book to find my friend in this book. Her name was Madia Lynn, and she was quiet and unassuming, and so she would have never told me what a big deal she was. She was someone who was strong in her vulnerability, and she experienced great challenges in her life, but she's able to do incredible things, not only to make her life a little bit better, but to make others' lives better, more inclusive and safe and just. Madia had been a community organizer since she was in high school. Her family was a union family, and she learned through them the power of people to organize for change. Can you go to that next picture, Adam? Yeah, there we go. When she was in high school, Madia sensed that she was a bit different from most of her classmates, and she came out as transgender when she was 18. She began working for the rights of LGBTQ people in her high school, and later within her Muslim faith when she converted to Islam when she was in her early 20s. She said that she was trying to find meaning in the world and her place in it when Islam spoke the words of the Quran. She felt she was always Muslim in her understanding of how the world works, but she didn't know that until she started studying the Islamic tradition. Madia worked for the rights of LGBTQ people for decades, and she co-founded the Masjid al-Rabia Mosque in Chicago in 2016, when many Muslims and LGBTQ people felt that they were especially unsafe and unwelcome, which is sadly something that is even more true today. Masjid al-Rabia began as a spiritual community that practiced radical inclusion. The mosque welcomed people, all people, especially those who were often excluded elsewhere, women, trans, and queer people who couldn't have imagined being in a mosque, let alone being asked to help lead prayer. An important part of including everybody at Masjid al-Rabia for Madia was making sure that the services and community activities were accessible to disabled people. This meant everything from making sure that nearby public transit stops were wheelchair accessible, to making sure services were available online for those who couldn't travel, and making sure that the leadership model was a shared one, so that no one person was in charge of everything. She was somebody who was disabled herself, and sometimes that meant that she had to be in the hospital, so she couldn't come to the office, so someone else would have to take over the leadership on those days. The community was designed so that others could step in when needed, and that helped everyone be truly a part of the shared leadership of the community. And it also helped model to people that we aren't just valuable because of what we do. We're valuable because we are human beings, right? I got to know Madia because she was instrumental in organizing the Evanston Interfaith Family Pride event that was inaugural last June, and we have our next one coming up June 8th. It was absolutely a community-wide effort, but I cannot imagine that event happening as successfully as it did without Madia and her leadership. Shortly after that event, she wanted to meet with me, and we sat down and she told me a little bit about her story. And she was looking for a new spiritual community because the mosque that she co-founded had closed. And she had started attending at UCE. She had only come a couple of times. And I'm so sad to tell you that shortly after that, she died suddenly because of her illness. And I miss her so much. I'm so sad that she's gone. And I feel so lucky that I got to know her even for just a little bit. Her story reminds us of the importance of shared ministry, of building communities that work to incorporate everyone's gifts and needs, and to make sure that there's room for everyone who would find a place in the spiritual work of liberation. And I want us all to think about how we might be holy troublemakers and unconventional saints. How might we, as a faith community and each person, make this space and this community more inclusive and welcoming, and not just here in these walls, but out in the world? How do we practice that radical inclusion with everyone? Thanks for listening to my story about my friend Madia. Each of us arrives at this place, at this hour, with our own joys and sorrows and thoughts and concerns. Sometimes they're held close to our hearts, and other times they're shared out loud. And you can share those, you can have those shared joys and sorrows spoken aloud if you fill out the book that's found at the table as you enter in. You can send them to me or fill out the form found on our website. We hold these with tenderness and with respect, and so we settle into this time by taking in a deep breath together. So will you join me now, just breathing in and letting it out. These are the joys and sorrows that have been shared with us today. First, from our book. After 17 years of outstanding performance in my job, I'm just seeing, Jillian Lawrence, spanning research and technology design in support of the federal government's efforts to support health for everyone living in this country, I was laid off this past week. I'm so sorry, Jillian. I joined the ranks of thousands of federal workers and contractors whose lives and livelihoods have been directly impacted by DOJ's chainsaw tactics. I'm so thankful to this wonderful community for their support during this devastating time. I look forward to networking with folks in the coming months as I work to line up my next professional adventure. Tony Ray writes in memory of Ed Bannock, a good neighbor. And Josh Goodrich and Laura Wright, we celebrated Court Koa's 5th birthday this weekend with a happy camper party in the front yard. Yay, Court, happy birthday. The weather was perfect. The weather was perfect for a bonfire, and we're so grateful for the love and love Court. And Janelle Britton wrote that over the past 13 years, I have enjoyed being active on many UC teams and committees, making friends and helping to make this church and world an even better place. As the years have passed, I've had a worry in the back of my mind as I became single and living alone in my house. What would happen if I was sick or disabled? Who would be there for me? Over the past 5 weeks, 30 UC members have been there for me through the roller coaster of healing from a broken leg. My heart is so full of gratitude for these UCE friends and the strong family this church has built. I look forward to a Sunday soon when I can come to church and give everyone a big hug and return the favor to them. And I just want to say that, that is a common story. We care for each other in this community. And so if you have something on your heart or you're going through something hard and difficult, please reach out and know that there is a caring team and a pastoral care team and just the whole community is there to help support you and hold you. As we hold all of these and the joys and the sorrows that are too tender to be spoken aloud, I invite you to come forward and light a candle or drop a stone in the well of tears at this table up front or one of the side tables, whichever is closest to you. And if you need a candle brought to you, please raise your hand and we will do so. These joys we give our thanks, for these sorrows we give our love. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Feel free to settle your bodies and pay attention to your breath as it moves in and out, as it is a shared collective experience of the sacredness of life. Source of sustaining and transforming love, be with us in our heartache and our confusion. For those of us afraid and hurting, infuse us with courage to move through the challenges before us, knowing we are not alone. Comfort us as we seek to provide comfort to the most afflicted. Help us to find compassion even for those who oppose our values. Give us strength to resist the lure of hate and fear and division, and to remain resolute in our collective will to imagine and create new ways of being in the world. Ease our sorrow, spirit of life. Feed our courage, nurture our resistance. Guide us in our journey toward more love, more peace, more hope, and more joy. And with joy, for those who are growing in our faith community, we sing them out with love, wishing them the peace that we wish for all of the world. Our preschool through 8th graders are invited to head to faith formation with their adult leaders as we sing Go Now in Peace.
As we say in our covenant every Sunday, service is our law. UCE is called by our mission, values, and principles to contribute to our community, to form accountable partnerships, and to express gratitude through giving. Today's offering will be shared with the Unitarian Universalist Prison Ministry of Illinois, or UUPMI. I love that about UUs, whose mission is equipping UUs in Illinois to transform institutions, partnering with and supporting people harmed by the prison industrial complex. You may text to give, mail in a check, put cash in the collection bowls, or give from our website. If you write a check, please indicate in the memo line if your check is for the shared offering or some other giving. The ushers will now come forward to pass the collection bowls down the rows. And please give as generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy. was wonderful. Excuse me. This reading is entitled When Leadership Fails, Communities Must Rise. It's a meditation by Reverend Cameron Trimble. The chemist Ilya Prigogine studied how complex systems behave under stress and found that when chaos increases, small pockets of order, what he calls islands of coherence, can stabilize the whole system. These islands don't have to be big or powerful. They just need to hold steady, like anchor points in a storm, until the chaos burns itself out and new patterns emerge. That's what we need now, those pockets of coherence. A congregation organizing a mutual aid fund for laid-off workers, neighbors forming community defense networks, teachers creating safe, honest spaces for students amid book bans and curriculum censorship, communities protecting their LGBTQ plus citizens, even a circle of friends committing to honest, thoughtful conversations in a time of spin and propaganda. Jesus modeled this kind of leadership. He didn't overthrow Rome. He gathered a small, resilient community, teaching them how to love fiercely, resist injustice nonviolently, and care for the least among them. That's how transformation always starts, not from the top down, but from the ground up. So when the news feels overwhelming, like, is it Tuesday? Ask yourself, where can I create an island of coherence today? Where can I show up with love, clarity, and courage? No single act will fix everything, but every act, every protest, every meal shared, every truth spoken in love pushes back against the chaos. And if enough of us hold steady, those small islands might just become the foundation of something new.
Progress
I've been wanting that song to be shared with you all for many months. It has been my anthem since November 5th. And I'm so grateful to all of you for sharing it and stirring my heart so deeply. Sometimes being small is comforting. I feel that kind of smallness looking at the night sky and taking in the splendor of Jupiter right now, like a glittering diamond, larger and farther away than my mind can fathom. I've felt like that standing on the edge of the breathtaking Grand Canyon, the kind of smallness that puts my tiny life into perspective in comparison to the massiveness of all there is. I think of the power of creation, of all that has been and will be, and know that my problems, my fears and frustrations of the moment are nothing really. And sometimes small is just scary. Like Piglet said, it's hard to be brave when you're only a very small animal. Sometimes feeling small is so lonely. Feels like tightness and powerlessness. That kind of smallness is dispiriting. Friends, I have felt that kind of smallness this week. Listening to the parade of lies and hate from our wannabe king while elected leaders cheer on their abdication of responsibility has left me feeling all but consumed with rage and despair. And in my smallness, amidst a nation unraveling, it can be helpful to look back at history, as Heather Cox Richardson does, to put things into some kind of reality check. It's helpful to read about those who have resisted terrible oppression from power-hungry and hateful leaders before. Even though every day seems to bring an unprecedented breach of public trust, it's oddly encouraging to know we've moved through some pretty awful things before. Progress amid struggle usually feels too small and inconsequential, and yet it's the only way progress has ever been made. The only way tyrants have ever been brought down is through the cumulative and collective gains, the small gains, made by individuals and communities building coalitions of justice and liberation over time. My sister-in-law, Jen, gave me a book for Christmas called The Small and the Mighty by Sharon McMahon. It's about ordinary, unsung Americans who had some significant part to play in the shaping of our country, a part perhaps bigger than their stature would predict. And several of the stories are about suffragists. Just a little more than 100 years ago, women who made up half the population of this country were not allowed to vote. Now, I know that this is something that most of you know and understand, but it's one of those things that has to be said again to sort of like sink in how important that is and how much has changed in a relatively short period of time. Thousands and thousands of women fought and died over 70 years for the basic right to cast a vote. Those decades of struggle were filled with individual stories of courage and conviction of people with little to no political capital overcoming the odds to claim real power, the kind of power that can't be erased because it is spiritual, moral, and collective power, the power of the people. Many of us are feeling powerless right now amidst the seemingly unstoppable display of white male supremacy, fueled by disgusting amounts of money, greed, complicity, and willful ignorance. It's hard to find a sense of agency in the dizzying cruelty and unchecked aggression against vulnerable people. And I am sick to my stomach, friends. And the only antidote to that sickness, to that heartache and soul ache, is to remember those who have come before and done incredible things to make life better for others, including those who won the right for women to vote in this country. They only achieved that victory because of the countless women before them who fought for decades and lost over and over again and kept marching. Yes, the world can be changed because we've done it before, so keep marching, keep marching. Rebecca Brown Mitchell is one of those people who you may not have heard of. She fought for and won the right for women to vote in Idaho in 1896. Before doing so, she moved from this state, Illinois, after her husband died. See, Illinois was one of many coverture law states, which meant a woman was legally covered by her husband. And when he died, everything they owned was no longer hers. Everything she and her children had, clothes, chairs, dishes, everything was taken by the state. And if she wanted it back, she had to pay for it. So Rebecca left her home with nothing but her teenage daughter and traveled west to Idaho, where she opened a school in an abandoned shed with no resources, and eventually turned her incredible energies toward advancing rights for women and girls in her adopted state. And the movement for suffrage marched across state by state and was inspired by women like Maria de Lopez, the daughter of a Mexican immigrant who encouraged votes for women in Spanish in California before she became a doctor and ambulance driver in World War I, something she had to pay her own way to do. The movement carried on with women like Inez Milholland, who joined the struggle for suffrage in 1913. The day before the inauguration of Woodrow Wilson, she famously rode her white horse, Gray Dawn, in a parade draped in billowing white cape and bedecked in symbols of hope, mercy, and knowledge down Pennsylvania Avenue, a parade which was to end in a dramatic tableau to inspire those to vote for suffrage for women. Instead, it ended with Inez Milholland and others surrounded by heckling and violent men, the police refusing to step in. But Milholland stayed in the suffrage fight for another 6 years, speaking passionately to large crowds despite her growing illness. She finally collapsed while traveling by train and died at the age of 30, just after Wilson won his second term as president and before the fight for national suffrage was won. Surely you've heard of your own stories of lesser-known heroes, the small and the mighty who did incredible things, fought insurmountable odds, never as singular stories, but as a movement that grows as it marches and chips away undeterred by the overwhelming forces of unchecked power. When I think of the small and the mighty, I can't help but think of Ruby Bridges. She wasn't listed in the book that I read, but probably because her story is not unsung. She's a hero to anyone who's seen this image. This small 6-year-old child going to school flanked by federal marshals struck fear in the hearts of people filled with venomous hate and bigotry who threw things at her, then followed her into school to pull their own white children out so they didn't have to attend with this terrifying powerhouse. For a whole year, Ruby was the only student in class with her teacher, Barbara Henry, a white woman from Boston who came to teach only her. In fact, Ruby didn't understand that she was the target of hate. She just wanted to go to school. She says now that her innocence protected her. She was small and mighty, for sure, but so was Miss Henry, who understood the full danger, and yet she showed up every day to teach this child, to shield her from hate with love. And how can I not mention the anniversary of Bloody Sunday this week, 60 years ago, when those who had their power suppressed fought back by marching across the state of Alabama to Selma, from Selma to Montgomery to demand their right to vote. Though they were beaten and deterred, they rose with courage and conviction to wrest power from the clutches of tyranny. Frederick Douglass taught us that power concedes nothing without a fight. It never has, and it never will. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't fight with fists or weapons. We fight with love to build collective power in beloved community, which is, as Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Ray describes it, community that enriches our lives, holds us in times of need, helps us to make a difference in the world, reminds us of who we are, and encourages what is good and true in us and all of humanity. Dear ones, I know how discouraging and dispiriting it all feels right now. I feel it too. And coalitions of change, islands of coherence, as our reading described, are made by our resistance, our willingness to keep moving forward, to not relinquish what we know is true and good and right in us and in humanity. Remember that there are millions and millions working in community, collectively, creatively, ideating a revolutionary way of being in the world every day. Teachers, therapists, doctors, nurses, caregivers, librarians, social workers, USAID workers, government employees just trying to ensure people have essential services, trans people having the courage to be who they are, disabled people who advocate for what they need to thrive and consequently make the world more accessible for everyone. Though we may feel powerless and frozen in our outrage, speaking the truth, writing the truth, engaging with others in the truth is a courageous and revolutionary act in these times. Listen to me, they want to tell you that it is better for you to be asleep. That's what anti-wokeness means. They want you to go to sleep. Go to sleep. After being concussed with the barrage of chaos and nonsense they're throwing at us, they want us to go to sleep. And I am telling you, as Rumi did, don't go back to sleep. Staying awake and aware, finding and sharing reliable sources of information, and refusing to fall for lies is an important act of revolution and reclaiming our power. Showing up for those who are targeted is a way of resisting. Holding on to joy, resting when you need to, being tender with your broken heart and taking care of each other and those who are most vulnerable is what marching on looks like. There are small but mighty ways for us to coalesce and build our strength together. Commentator Robert Reich offered these ideas for what we can do in a January 23rd post. Protect decent and hardworking undocumented people in our community. We're going to talk about that today at 2 o'clock and through some of our neighbors. So join us if you can. Protect LGBTQ in our community. Protect officials and elections in our community being targeted by vengeance. Participate in organized boycotts. Many of you participated in the boycott on the 28th. The impact was much, but we didn't expect the world would change in a day, right? Can we keep going? Yeah, can we keep boycotting shopping at Target, who dropped their DEI efforts under pressure for just 40 days of Lent or some other time period that is meaningful to you? Can we participate in a boycott, which means shopping at and supporting only local businesses? Can we do that? Yes. Our collective economic power is one of the most powerful tools we have. Think about the Montgomery bus boycott. It took more than a year for that to finally take hold. And of course, the fight for justice wasn't over then, but it was a mighty step. We can fund groups like the ACLU that are leading the charge to litigate illegal seizures of power. We can spread truth, get news from reliable sources, and to the extent possible, encourage those that you have any influence over to avoid propaganda outlets like Fox News, X, and yes, even Facebook and Instagram. We can push for progressive measures in our own local community. We can encourage worker action and support unions. And friends, we can keep the faith. Do not give up on America. Do not give up on yourself. Do not give up on each other. Keeping the faith means taking care of our spirits, reaching out to each other when we feel small and alone. It means finding and sharing even the smallest sparks of joy, knowing that each spark can help ignite another into a growing and luminous flame. And I'll add another thing that we can do. We can attend the Cultivating Hope revival that the Anti-Oppression Task Force is planning for April 12th. Mark your calendars. Friends, the gains will feel small and the losses too large, but we must keep marching. We must march as our ancestors did for us, and we must march for our descendants who need us to not give in to despair or give up on the power of community, the enduring legacy of goodness that has always and will always be a part of the human story. We must coalesce our small individual power into greater communal power, weaving stronger connections and broader islands of coherence. This fight is far from over. It is the struggle for the spirit of life to endure, to evolve, to transform and surprise us, even in our darkest hours. We will keep marching together. We will, in love, with justice and liberation as our sacred guides. Amen and blessed be. Let us go making peace, dear ones.
She's amazing. As we extinguish the chalice, please join in saying the words on the screen by the Reverend Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn.
Our benediction is from the Reverend Cameron Trimble. What if we trusted that the divine is already at work, weaving beauty even in the uncertainties? What if we trusted that transformation doesn't happen all at once, but step by step, day by day? This transformation does not wait for perfect conditions. It begins in the messiness of the present moment. It begins with people like us, worried, inspired, and sometimes unsure, but willing to take one step forward. Let us keep marching on.